Substitution Lesson 5. Now in Lesson 4 we looked at the Passover, and now we're going to move on to the Exodus of the children of Israel. We looked at the Passover and we saw that the lamb was slain, the Passover lamb was slain, was sacrificed as a substitutionary sacrifice for the firstborn of Israel. And so every family, the firstborn son of every family, was covered by the blood of the Passover lamb. It was the substitutionary sacrifice for each of the firstborn. And we say, oh, that's interesting. So these firstborn, this matter of the firstborn is clearly related to the teaching of substitution, right? We're introduced to the firstborn through this idea of the Passover lamb being their substitute. And so there's a tie between the firstborn and substitution right from the start. And then immediately the children of Israel go out of Egypt and head towards the wilderness. God takes this matter of the firstborn up again, and we see it says, Exodus 12:51, and it came to pass the selfsame day that the Lord did bring the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt by their armies. So they've come out. The first thing that God does when they come out says this, and the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Sanctify unto me all the firstborn, whatsoever openeth the womb among the children of Israel, both of man and beast, it is mine. So this is interesting. He says, what I want you to do is to sanctify all the firstborn. And we'll just go on and read the way he put the Passover made it a permanent thing, because we need that in our mind. And Moses said unto the people, Remember this day, this is the day they came out of Egypt, in the which ye came out from Egypt, out of the house of bondage. For by strength of hand the Lord brought you out from this place. There shall no leavened bread be eaten. This day came ye out in the month Abib. Remember, we said they started their new calendar. And it shall be, when the Lord shall bring thee into the land of the Canaanites and the Hittites and the Amorites and the Hivites and the Jebusites, which he sware unto thy fathers to give thee, a land flowing with milk and honey, that thou shalt keep this service in this month. 7 days thou shalt eat unleavened bread, and in the 7th day shall be a feast unto the Lord. Unleavened bread shall be eaten 7 days. There shall no leavened bread be seen with thee, neither shall there be leaven seen with thee in all thy quarters. And thou shalt show thy son in that day, saying, This is done because of that which the Lord did unto me when I came forth out of Egypt. And it is for a sign unto thee upon thine hand, and for a memorial between thine eyes, that the Lord's law may be in thy mouth. For with a strong hand hath the Lord brought thee out of Egypt. Thou shalt therefore keep this ordinance in his season from year to year. So they were to keep the feast of the Passover every year for 7 days. But I want to get back to this idea of where he says, Sanctify unto me all the firstborn. Sanctify, this is the first usage of it in the Hebrew, and it's a primary root, to be or to cause, to make or pronounce as or observe as clean, to be ceremonially clean or morally clean. It's to appoint, to bid, to consecrate, to dedicate, to defile, to hallow, to be holy or to keep holy, to keep, prepare, proclaim, purify, sanctify. Right? It means in the physical sense to set apart, to put apart from all else, or to cause to pass over as a line or a position, to pass over a line, and so be separated. demarcation. That's what it's about. Separation. It's about being separate. And so sanctification can be both positional, it can be a thing that's done once and that puts it in place. So you can be sanctified, that means you can be set apart. And at salvation we are sanctified, we are set apart positionally. And then sanctification can be progressive. It can be a thing that as we go through our lives, we are gradually being sanctified. And that's true too. And so we see these firstborn sons were to be sanctified. They were to be set apart. So God told Moses to take all the firstborn who had been saved by the blood of the Passover lamb and separate them from the rest of the congregation. So Moses set them apart. That's what he did with them. He put them apart in a group. And this would have been an interesting exercise. He would have gone out and said, now, all those firstborn sons who were saved by the blood of the Passover lamb, come out from your families and come into a group apart. Now the inference is, of course, that God intended to do something with them as time went on, but in the meantime they were a sign or a symbol of substitution for all the people to see. There was a group of them, we'll talk about it, it's a big group. And when the children of Israel looked at them, whenever the rest of the congregation, now remember it says there were 600,000 men, more than 600,000 men, so probably well over 2 million, even up to 3 million people. And when they looked and they saw these set apart ones, sanctified ones, they were reminded that the Passover lamb had died instead of each of these firstborn males. Right, so there was a group. Were they a big group? Yes, they certainly were. There was 22,273. That gives us that specific number. Now that's an interesting number for us to think of, 22,273. And they were to be separated, sanctified, set apart. But why did God set them apart? What was he going to do with them? Well, the future will tell us. But first of all, they were holy to God, and in a particular way they belonged to God. Because they had been saved from death by the substitution of the Passover lamb, God claimed them as his own. Exodus 13:2 says, sanctify unto me all the firstborn, whatsoever openeth the womb among the children of Israel, both of man and beast, it is mine. Right, he said, these ones are mine, they belong to me. Let's have a look at Exodus 22:29. What does that say? Exodus 22:29. Thou shalt not delay to offer the first fruits, the first of thy ripe fruits and of thy liquors, the firstborn of thy sons thou shalt give unto me. Right, so he was saying, first of all, put this group apart, and I want everybody to see them and understand that they're there as a result of substitution. The lamb took their place. The lamb's blood was shed, put on the doorposts and on the lintel, and the angel of death passed over them, so they are now mine. And God claimed them for his own. And then they were the sign or the symbol of substitution. They were visible to everybody. A crowd like that, you could hardly miss them, could you? 22,273 men. The problem was, of course, that they were spread through all the congregation, right? There was one from every family. And that was a problem. When they took them and set them apart, they were taking out one from every family throughout the whole of the congregation. And so that was a problem. What are you going to do with 22,273 men that you've got set apart in a different group? But they were very visible. Everybody could see them. And so they were the sign or the symbol of substitution. They came to represent substitution in the mind of the people. The advantage was that they were representative of all the congregation. Everybody had an interest in this. Every family. Just think about this. Every family now had this principle of substitution to thank for the fact that their sons were alive. Right? They, in fact, were now substitutes for all the families of Israel. One was taken from every family. Instead of all the people being taken, just one of their family was taken, and they now became substitutes for all the families. So however you looked at them, you would think about substitution. That's what the children of Israel would think about them. But to set apart over 22,000 men, one from every family, is quite a logistical problem and hardly sustainable over a long period of time. Remember, they're going to be wandering in the wilderness for 40 years. Now, they didn't know that, but God knew that. And so to have these over 22,000 men set apart over a long period of time would have been a major problem. So we can expect that God's going to do something with them, right? Why would he set them apart if he wasn't going to? Of course, God had a plan for them. This plan was to build the doctrine of substitution into the law and so establish it in the social structure of Israel, to so establish it that it would never be lost or mistaken until it was fulfilled in Christ. Now Matthew 5, 17 and 18, you've learnt that, but we'll just go and look once again because it's so important that we understand that this is what's got to happen. Matthew 5, 17 and 18. It says, "Think not that I am come to destroy the law or the prophets." This is Christ talking. "I am not come to destroy, but to fulfill. For verily I say unto you, till heaven and earth pass, one jot or one tittle shall in no wise pass from the law till all be fulfilled." Right, so Christ has come to fulfill the law, and now we're going to see that this idea of substitution is going to be built into the law, so Christ must fulfill it, and he must fulfill it according to the law. And so we'll see what develops with it. So the matter of the firstborn does not end there. Of course it doesn't, because God's got to do something with them now. He's got all these blokes separated. So let's have a look at Exodus 13, and let's just read verses 11 to 16. It takes it up. It says, this is after he said, "Sanctify all the firstborn." I'll just read that again. Verse 1, "And the Lord said unto Moses, spake unto Moses, saying, Sanctify unto me all the firstborn, whatsoever openeth the womb among the children of Israel, both of man and beast, it is mine." And then verse 11, "And it shall be, when the Lord shall bring thee into the land of the Canaanites, as he sware unto thee and to thy fathers, and shall give it thee, that thou shalt set apart," sanctify, "unto the Lord all that openeth the matrix," that's the womb, that's the firstborn son, "and every firstling that cometh of a beast which thou hast, the male shall be the Lord's." So the firstborn male, not only of humans, people, but also of all their animals, all the clean animals. And every firstling of an ass thou shalt redeem with a lamb. Now why was that? That's because the ass is an unclean animal. And if thou wilt not redeem it, then thou shalt break his neck, and all the firstborn of men among thy children shalt thou redeem. And it shall be, when thy son asketh thee in time to come, saying, What is this? That thou shalt say unto him, By strength of hand the Lord brought us out from Egypt and from the house of bondage. And it came to pass, when Pharaoh would hardly let us go, that the Lord slew all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, both the firstborn of man and the firstborn of beast. Therefore I sacrifice to the Lord all that openeth the matrix, being males, that all the firstborn of my children I redeem. And it shall be for a token upon thine hand, and for frontlets between thine eyes, for by strength of hand the Lord brought us forth out of Egypt. Right, and then we go on to Exodus 34, 19 and 20. And this is in the law itself. Exodus 34. And this is where God is giving the law. And he says, All that openeth the matrix, or the womb, is mine, and every firstling among thy cattle, whether ox or sheep, that is male. But the firstling of an ass thou shalt redeem with a lamb, and if thou redeem him not, then thou shalt break his neck. All the firstborn of the sons, thy sons, shalt thou redeem, and none shall appear before me empty. Right, so God is building this idea into the law that all the firstborn of Israel and the firstborn of their animals as well, they all belong to God, and they are rightly God's because he's bought them with the blood of the Passover lamb. So we have in these passages we just read, God taking up the idea that because he redeemed all the firstborn in Egypt, from now on, all the firstborn, and it's males, not females, but only males, of Israel must be redeemed because they were holy and set apart for God. Exodus 13:12, we'll just check that again. Exodus 13:12. And thou shalt set apart unto the Lord all that openeth the matrix, and every firstling that cometh of a beast which thou hast, the male shall be the Lord's. Right. Now, it is clear that this matter of the firstborn is not only about substitution, but it's also about redemption. Now, redemption is the doctrine that substitution leads us to. But we're looking at substitution, and here I'd just like us to remember that we'll keep running into other doctrines as we go through, and we've got to contain ourselves and not say, look at that, I could go down that trail. We've got to stick to the one that we're doing and follow that thread through. So we will, but we'll note here that this whole matter of the firstborn obviously is about redemption as well as substitution. And we see that in Exodus 34, 19 and 20, and we read that. This principle is built into the law, and so is built into the social structure of Israel, and so preserved perpetually. Now, this is the way God intended it to be. God intended for the children of Israel to have the law and base their lives on it, their whole social structure, and to live that way. And for that to be a perpetual thing. And they still do it to this day. And so preserved forever within the law is all the doctrines that we're learning. And so we can look at the children of Israel and say, what do they do? How do they live? What feasts do they keep? What sacrifices do they make? All of these things we can look at, and we will find preserved for us what God wants us to know.